for everyone here, you already know how these capacity building trainings online work, but feel free also during the presentation to raise your hand. Of course, that we have a Q&A at the end of the presentation from Philippe, but it's pretty much flexible as it's just us. So feel free to reach out anytime. So a very short introduction from my side, also to give a little bit of idea to Philippe of what we are doing and why we call him here today. So this session is part of the capacity building program that we have in Neutralpath. The capacity building program has different learning modules. It's designed for our 5 cities, specifically for our city coordinators and the public administrations. And let me see. Okay, that's the slide. This capacity building program, Philippe, we started, well, the cities already know, so this is just for you to have a little bit of an idea. Is a program that we have started implementing in 2024 and that we will end at the end of the project. So it's quite long, it's 4 years. The program has been designed since the start of the project with the cities. So we went with our city through one assessment across different areas, specifically, of course, those that are related to PCEDs. So we have organized some surveys and interviews with our city coordinators to understand the needs across built environment, mobility, and energy as sectors in the cities, but also through different cross-cutting areas. And of course, financing and business model was one of those. So we developed this program across, as I said, these different learning modules that we called, and we address different topics across financing, governance, social innovation, and of course, technology and technological solutions. We have different methodologies that we use, both online as this training session in which we invite one expert to focus on one specific topic, but also we do different kind of in-person activities and capacity building days in which we also leverage a little bit the local experts when we go to the different cities during the general assemblies. So if you come to Ghent, you will be part of it as well. So we wait for you there. And so basically the idea of this program really is to work on the skills of the cities, help them strengthen their capacity, not only for the design and implementation of PCEDs, but overall also to support them towards climate neutrality, and for those that are also mission cities, the link with the climate city contract and everything that is related to the climate neutrality, let's say, plans is very much related to what we do. So this was for Philippe. Now for our cities, as I said, Philippe today here is also part of the coordination team of Scalable Cities. I will give just a very quick introduction, and of course, Philippe, later you can add and correct me if I said something that is not correct. So Scalable Cities is an initiative that is funded by the European Commission that actually ended last month, but there is a lot of knowledge that we still can capitalize, and that's why also we invited Philippe today. So this initiative was funded by the European Commission, and it really focused over 8 years, right? Something like that. On basically funding different smart city projects and positive energy district projects through 2 different programs, Horizon 2020 and then Horizon Europe. Some of these projects, as ours and Ascent, for example, are still ongoing. So we have from this initiative a lot of different solutions, progress, also we can say failures, that are very important for us to know and to share across our different projects and cities to understand what works and what didn't over these years. So here there is a map, and I won't enter into of course, the details, but we will share the links as well. Scalable Cities as an initiative had many different groups and task forces and task groups. One of those where it was the business model task group that Philippe was coordinating, and that's why also we invited him to speak today. There are many different resources as well that I think are very useful. Sorry, that are very useful for our city to check from Scalable Cities, especially those that have been developed in the last year, because at the end are the ones that really build upon what was learned, not only for business models, but for replication, for many different aspects. So we will put the link, and if you want to look at them or read them, etc., I think these are very valuable resources for our cities. So before leaving the word to Philippe, I just wanted to make the connection between this session, the business models, scalable cities, and our cities as well. Because as I said, in 2023, we did organize a needs assessment with our cities, also on financing and business models, and why they are so important. So of course, Philippe will tell us more about what business models are, but basically we are trying to find also in Neutralpath a solution that is financially sustainable after these grants ran out for these PCDs and these solutions. And of course, this means also finding a way to generate an economical value also from a private capital perspective. The common barriers that we have found out with our cities are very much actually very interesting, related to those that are mentioned in the latest report the Scalable Cities has developed on smart cities business models. So the common barriers were, of course, the over-reliance that cities have on grants when it comes to PCDs and energy projects, the capability and exactly the skills that are needed within the public administration to build business models. And of course, also the stakeholder orchestration that is very much complex at local level, as it is, of course, a very, it's a maze of ecosystem. So these three are the main barriers that we have found out with our cities, and that we will also hear and address with the presentation from Philippe. So now, yes, without further ado, I leave the floor to Philippe.
Oh,
if you want to, yeah, okay.
Oh, thank you very much, Stefania. It was very comprehensive, the presentation of Scalable Cities. I just have to add one thing is that the Secretariat is now over, but we decided the project to continue to cooperate, so the Scalable Cities community is still alive. Right now, it's another SCC project who is taking the chair response. And we will develop joint actions, particularly in terms of events. And we will continue a different task group. One of them is the business model financing and replication task group, where we would like to have your participation, of course, in this task group. But we will inform you a bit later on what we are deciding, because it's currently under discussion. So I don't know if I'm an expert. I'm working on this field since, let's say, 10 years. I maybe have more questions than answers too. And I will also rely on the expertise of other people to work it hard on that, particularly guys such as experts such as R2M, St. Gallen University, or the recent report that Scalable Cities made. Not Scalable Cities, but the expert commissioned by Scalable Cities. So we can go to the next slide, please, Stefania. So the agenda is starting by the beginning. What is a business model? Because it's always a question, and why it is relevant for cities. I believe that you are already a bit convinced today. Is there a business model for PCED? So the PCED, it's UN Ascend. Before it was Positive Energy District. So we have the C, which we don't really know exactly the meaning. but we have, let's say, 2.5 years to find it. The lesson from the past and the present, business model from SEC projects. So there's plenty of business models. So not able to go into the detail. Of course, it will be more an overview. And the last but not least question is what could be the pathways to finance PCED or climate solutions? Maybe I forget to mention that I'm speaking on my behalf and not on the Secretariat because the Secretariat is over. It has been funded by the European Commission, but it's more me than the Secretariat who is speaking here. So next slide, please. You know that in Essen we have University of St. Gallen. They are very skilled in terms of business model, and they started to define the business model. You can read it, but I would like to emphasize on maybe a couple of bullet points. The two first one are very important because that's a tool to concretize measures, solutions from different angles, the angle of the end user or customer, the angle of the value chain, and that has to be measurable. That's very important. The second one is a tool to understand how the value chain needed will work to deliver a service or product to the end user or the customer. That's something which is usually cities are reacting to business model a bit badly because there is a business in the business model. And what they said is that you don't make profit, so you are not following a business model in the strict term of the definition, but you are working on a value chain to deliver a positive energy district, to deliver, I don't know, transportation services or that kind of thing. And it's super important to understand how the value chain is working, who is involved, and who is invoicing who. Because if the value chain is not profitable, there will be a problem to deliver the services. And the last one I will say is that's a strategy, of course, to create value and profit for private organization, but other source of value for the public services, of course. But that's also something which work in terms of innovation by recombination. And that's a source from St. Gallen University. 90% of business models are recombination of business models. So that's important. We are not always trying to reinvent the wheels, but to combine existing wheels. Let's go to the next slide. So you can see that's a slide is not for me. It's from the St. Gallen University, very well known. And we are working in Essen to make a kind of copy-paste, but for public business models. But you have the three sort of magic triangle we are working on within Ascend. So there's a what do you offer to the customer, what is your value proposition? And you have to be careful because sometimes you have different type of customers who are involved in the value chain. The why is why revenue is created, what are the costs and the revenue, and how can you balance both? And the last one is the how the value proposition is created. So that's important. And one of the things is really to understand who is your target customer, who is really the guys, the people you are targeting to deliver your value proposition. So we will try to combine these different tools in what could be a PCED business model navigator, let's say. And you can see that there's already some elements which are not strictly related to business, but to other kind of value. If we go to the what, you have, of course, a new value proposition that are supported by positive clean energy districts, such as environmental, social value as well. That's what we call just transition, let's say, and also the health, who can also be a very interesting trigger to develop business models. If we go to the benefit and cost, the why, we have new mechanism to try to create value. But create this value doesn't mean that it's still profitable. And when we talk, for instance, on adaptation, we are struggling to really see where the profit can be made, even if the positive effects are there, of course. But that's new mechanism where we can create value from positive energy district, and that can have some effect on the benefit and cost. So we have the triple bottom line. That's super simple because you have economic, social, and environmental. That's a triple. But you have also the question of pricing. Who will pay us at the end the services between the user, the end user? We don't really know who sometimes is or are the end user. You can have the owners, you can have the tenants, you can have the citizen. That could be also the taxpayers. That will be the municipal budget, but in a way, the municipal budget is coming from the taxpayer who are citizens as well. So it's a bit a combination between them. And you have also the companies that can fund some part of the positive energy district and so on. And the last one is the how, which is really extremely relevant for developing PCD, not just a pilot, but a couple of PCD in each cities, is how are you going to do it? And that's the usual question we have, make or buy. So you are used to procure or you are used to develop your own services. But there's also the question about public-private partnership, SPVs, a special purpose vehicle, we will come to that a bit later on, agencies, or even the services could be delivered by the citizen by itself, and it's something which can save a lot of money, of course. So that's a new rationale of the triangle. So is it important? I guess so, because you are used to make PPP, create SPV for many things such as transportation, energy, or things like that. We know that it's now really I think we all know that municipal budget can only do 20 to 30% of what is needed to make a city climate neutral. And that's something we also know within the SCC communities for positive energy district. So that's important to have a business model. We know also that when we are doing pilots, it costs a lot. We know that some climate innovations are socially regressive because they are falling more heavily on low-income households. So how to compensate it? You can compensate by subsidizing the services, but you can also look at how we can find good business model and back-to-back financing schemes that can lower the cost. That's one of the conclusion we had in our 10 years of project is we have pilot project, but the question is how to upscale them, and to upscale them, we need to decrease the cost of solutions, of course. Next slide, please. If you have questions, do not hesitate to interrupt me. Sorry, I didn't mention that. So that's for the first question. What is a business model? Is it relevant for PCED, for cities? Second thing, is there a business model for PCED? That's a very important question because if we have a business model for PCED, we can duplicate it. If we don't have it, that will be more challenging. So what we can say, and the diagram you can see is extracted from a very old Smart Cities Community project called IRIS, which was led by Utrecht and Gezer Gothenburg and another city I'm afraid I have forgotten. You need someone to assemble, and you need someone to invoice and to be sure that the invoicing will be profitable for the whole value chain. That's one of the conclusions we had from the pilot. So we know that the positive energy district are a set of solutions that has to be integrated if you want to reach a positive energy district. We can see also that there's a big trend about what we call servitization, which is simply to deliver not a product, but a services, very simple, to the end user. And for that, you need to orchestrate the value chain. That's a key success factor. We know that probably people will shift from transaction model, I'm buying something, to a subscription model. I'm subscribed to services, which will, in a way, make the thing for me. The job to be done will be done by this service model. And here you can see that that's a value chain from the battery Second Life workshop. So you had time to read it, I guess, but that's a very interesting one because that's one of the solutions from Iris. Second battery life, we know what it is. It's just to reuse battery coming here from automotive car, sorry, to store energy in a large set of buildings. These buildings are managed by the facility manager, who is here the coordinator or the assembler of the different services. The idea for this facility manager is to offer a full services of to the housing association, and for that he will have to bundle or to aggregate different operators with their own rationale. So you have, of course, the grid operator, you have the battery leaser, which is just a company who is leasing the battery. You have the housing association as a target group, but the housing association are composed of end user and citizen. And you have to try to aggregate, and that's one of the business models who was very successful because after Iris, it's in Sweden, by the way, the idea was from the facility manager to expand and upscale these services to its other property facilities. So next slide, please. What I would like also to mention is that the PCED business should be back to back with innovative financing schemes. The question I raised before is that you can have a business model, you can at least make a first of its kind in our pilot project, but you will need for upscaling this business model to find the proper financing scheme that can help to deploy the solutions. And here you can, that's an example which is not extracted from the SEC world, but is extracted from the developing world. And it's about cooling. They have created, you know, the heating is a very, now heat wave are very challenging for Europe today, but it's even worse in developing countries. So they have tried to propose a mechanism called cooling as a services. And you can have an analogy with the positive energy district as a services, but here it's more targeted to cooling. And they have design this mechanism to avoid that people can invest in air conditioning with very bad and very damageable system to the planet, of course, but they have tried to aggregate this demand and to provide financial schemes that will help to expand the solutions. So it's a creation of a SPV, a special purpose vehicle. It's a private or institutional investors. They will purchase the equipment. They will have a contract with a technology provider, which will provide the cooling equipment, the maintenance, and pay the electricity to the end user. And the fact that you create this SPV will, by investors, will help to, first and foremost, to decrease the cost, to finance the solution to the low and moderate income household who have the means to pay it, and at the same time to ensure that the dialogue between the technology provider and the SPV will help to get the most advanced technology in this aspect. So that's one of the back-to-back innovative financing schemes. There's other, and that's the next slide, which is still not extracted from our SEC portfolio. And why it is not extracted? Oh, disappear.
Sorry, Philip. No, I just wanted to, before we go to the next one, just to make sure if there are any questions.
Or maybe I'm going a bit too fast. I don't know.
No? Okay, no, then let's keep going. Sorry.
No, it's not extracted, the second one, because in our project, we were focused on business model, try to test that what we are proposing is working with a kind of good, reasonable price, let's say, but we didn't address the question on how to upscale, which require at the moment a financing scheme. The second one is a community solar for low, moderate income household. And that's another structure which is interesting. And it's not so, and the previous one is not so far away from solutions such as ESCO or performance energy contract that we can see in our project again also. So there's a typical structure which is to invest in a community solar project, but you have the risk of payment default by the end user. So here the innovation was to de-risk the project by adding a green bank, and the green bank added what they call a LMI, revenue guarantee fund, that can ensure that in case of default of payment from the end user, the household, the community solar project will be repaid. So that's a way to guarantee that everything will be good, and the risk of the investors is at this moment considerably decreased. That's something we have not really think about it during our project, and if we want to upscale the solution we have, that's obviously a pathway to follow. Next slide, please. So this conclusion is my conclusion, and we disagree in our last final event of Scalable Cities because other experts think that we can find a PCED business model. For me, it's extremely complicated because investors and decision makers, it's your decision maker, by the way, they are creators of habit. They don't want to take risk. They want to mitigate any risk because they are people who are used to do things. So if you come up with a new proposal, which is a bit complicated to understand, they will not follow. Bankability of solution is still unclear. Our projects are complex. We design, we deliver multiple objectives. That's one of the problem of European projects in smart cities and communities is that we have to do everything, and as we are doing everything, sometimes we are missing the essential. For me, it's difficult to find a positive energy or clean energy district business model. There's too many components to collect, to orchestrate for investors. All the solutions I have shown before, they have an angle. They have a clear value proposition. A positive energy district for private investors, that's not easy to understand. That's a process. That's a quote from our friend Dirk Allers from the Plus City Exchange. That's true. That's a long one. We know that we are going to develop, maybe you are going to develop 2 PCED, Hassan will develop 2 PCED, and by the way, full disclosure, we will develop 1 PCED because the other one is a bit complicated to manage, but that will take us, we will take 5 years to do it. So if you want to expand, it can take more than 50 years to do 10 times what you have developed. So the solution is probably to focus on profitable and upscalable. What is scalable solutions at the city level? That's certainly the angle, and it's why the Smart Cities and Communities project are offering a very set of experiences that can help. So but that doesn't mean that what we are doing or what we have done is useless. I think that cities are the only long-term investors in terms of public and great of good for people that can finance PCED deployment. That's true. We have a portfolio of interesting solutions. Some can have a future at the city level. Example, energy communities. But I think you are not investing in energy communities or low temperature thermal network or district heating, for instance. That's absolutely true. The question is how to finance the upscaling, of course, or at European level. And in Scalable Cities, we are working on a new concept, which is called European Asset Classes and Climate City Impact Investment Fund, where we think that we have to invest in major solutions. So the time of pilot is still there, but if we want to reach our objective in due term, we need to finance major solutions, and we need to try to use also the European Capital Common Market. And the question is to upscale. Probably cities has to change their mindset, but we will come back to that a bit later on. So next slide, if there's no question about that, I will explain a bit what we have found in the different reports we finance. So the first one is one about European Smart City business model. It was a focus on a couple of solutions, 11, if I'm not mistaken, that we extracted from the existing project. So we had here almost all the project apart Asland and Neutralpath because we were just starting. So you can see that we have in this 11 business model, we have different type of business model. Most of them are service model or smart management, which means that the trend towards servitization, towards solving a problem to a customer and not selling a product is really one of the key trends of the smart cities and communities business model. You can see that in the different business model. And by the way, the second life battery storage Gothenburg is the example I have shown a bit before. You have other, let's say, type of solution, infrastructure storage as well, or platforms. The platform is the platform developed by Rotterdam, the data platforms they develop, which is now a marketplace, which helps startups or citizens to use or to play with the data of the platform. So that the pictures. What I have to mention is also the risk sharing facility is called financial scheme, but that's a way to represent how a value chain is working to deliver a positive energy district or a solution. Here in Trondheim, the risk sharing facility methodology was used to develop positive energy blocks in Trondheim, and it was very successful. But it's also because on top of the projects they added a kind of platform where you can exchange and sell energy. We are possible in Norway, but not in in Europe everywhere. So maybe next slide. What they found also is that there's a pilot trap, meaning that we have progress. You can see it on the slide. But as long as we are progressing towards a market readiness, at some point there's a pilot trap, meaning that the operation of some business model by the city is not anticipated and can stay at the moment in the trap, and that will that's one of the challenge is how to think about the upscaling. You can go to the next slide probably. probably, because that will be in explanation and positioning in the slide of the different business model you have seen. So you can see that, oops, sorry, you have to stay in the previous one.
Sorry. Wait, I lost it. Is it before or after?
It's a bit before. Are you at the end?
Yes, wait.
Yeah, that's the one.
This one, okay.
Yeah, that's the one. You can see the different business model on this diagram, which shows that we have some challenges in the operation of this business model. For instance, the positive energy district management toolbox and AI-based optimization. That's something that worked very well in Dijon Metropole, but right now, how to operate the system at a larger scale, that raise question of different natures. The one who are more on the upscaling are right now the Open Urban Data Platform, because it's a marketplace operational since a couple of years, and also something which was also a very interesting output from the program for training, high executive training about how we can provide value through urban digital innovations. So you can see also that the V2 charging network and the Second Life battery are probably the one who are closer to the upscaling project, and it's not, let's say, by chance. First, the two business models are developed by companies that have a genuine interest to commercialize what they have done. And secondly, it's because the project is one of the four oldest projects of the community. So let's go maybe to the next slide. That's a typology of business model coming from another project, another report, and this one is probably the most recent one because it has been delivered in July 2025. That's also the problem to work with researchers. They take a lot of time to write their report. And that's a very interesting one because it's about enabling and upscaling PCED, and they are looking at this problematic on different angles. Technical, what are the key technologies to upscale PCED, governance, and business model. And they have made a very interesting review of the business model implemented in 6 projects. Not all of the project, of course, the 6 projects we were in this report, by the way, Ascend and Neutralpath, but the angle was more on the previous ones, such as City Exchange, Atelier, Response, Sparks, and Making City. And you can find the different business models that have been developed. So you have, of course, ESCO and EPC, Energy Performance Contract, which are very traditional business model, let's say, that has been developed by City Exchange. You have the peer-to-peer energy trading, where you can see how you build a platform that will help inhabitants, citizens, owners to sell or to buy renewable energy directly, or to sell it to the DSO, of course. You can, and that on top of that, you will see that sometimes gamification, which is added to that. So that's positive and City Exchange, but it's not possible everywhere in Europe because we are not always allowed to share energy or to sell energy, and that's probably also a regulatory aspect to be addressed. You have energy communities that are also one of the business models that has been tested in positive in Making City, and even in a previous project called Matchup, where the idea was to create a socialized power plant. So they made some crowdfunding crowdfunding campaign to help citizens of the district to be shareholder of the socialized power plant and to benefit from the production of energy. You have energy as a services, and that's very similar to EPC or ESCO, because the idea is to provide the services about you are a subscriber of these services, and that could help to reduce the upfront cost for user and to have a better maintenance of the equipment. That's very similar to the example I have shown about cooling as a services. You have public and private partnership that are some collaboration between public and private partners, such as Amsterdam, Alkmaar, or Espoo, and that's one of the very important lever we have in Assen, by the way, because we have three, let's say, special purpose vehicle fully owned by the cities, and that are in charge to deal with private developers to sell land to private developers, for instance, in exchange of a particular program with high standard in terms of energy and performances, and even energy community building, and also to include part of low, moderate income household in the program. And there's a one-stop model, but that's something you already know, I guess. The idea is just to have a one-stop shop to make, for instance, a renovation or refurbishment. So people are not, let's say, bothered by the fact they have to invest their time and money in the solution, is the deployment of the solution, but they have a kind of global services. And you have other possible type of business model. One of the things we have, for instance, in Porto, we have tax rebate for energy community and PV solar panel. So that's helped to, of course, incentivize citizens to develop energy renewable productions. You have on-bill financing as well, green bond crowdfunding. I already spoke about that. So I encourage you to read this report because there's very interesting aspect, and it's a global one. So you don't have only business model, because sometimes we are too disconnected to the technical aspect. That's why it is very interesting. The previous one also is interesting, of course. One example is the P2P
Philippe,
energy.
sorry, 2 minutes to wrap up, because otherwise
2 minutes to wrap up.
Yes.
Oh my God, so let's go to the next slide, so we don't have time. What I would like to say is in 2 minutes maybe, and it's difficult to say this business model are working or not, because we don't have enough data to assess. They are pilots. They need scale to really see if they are capable to shift from, let's say, a first of its kind to a number of its kind. So it's not easy. And that's mandatory if they want to lower down this cost and to propose a reasonable pricing. And we don't know also what has happened after the end of the project, because even if we have missions to obligation to follow after, I think, 3 to 5 years after the project, it's almost impossible. What I would like to say is maybe to conclude also on the pathway to finance PCED, we need to change the approach. De-risking is absolutely critical. That's the slide. I will not comment the slide. You have to also, and that's important to understand, and that's Bristol and Dijon who did it, and that's interesting. They started with a kind of portfolio of project. We know that the project we are financing, at the end, they will reach different level of maturity. Some of them will need to have access to public funds. Some of them will have to test the private sector and that kind of thing. So the objective from Dijon and Bristol was to develop a portfolio of projects with different level of maturity and to work with private investors to de-risk the deployment of this project by, on the one hand, that's a concessional agreement from Bristol with a large company, an American one plus a Swedish one, to develop energy project in the domain of Bristol, and Bristol made a concessional agreement of 20 years to develop that. And it's working very well because they are also de-risking by providing, for instance, public asset for developing an energy production plant. That's one of the things. And Dijon Métropole did something different. They create an in-house public company with an investment fund called Meridiam. And the idea is to full project, combine this project in the maturation, in the maturity, and then to finance the upscaling of this project. So that's another way to do it. It's called investment fund. It's called a special purpose vehicle, and that's a way to think about what could be the upscaling of this project. So I was absolutely too long. So, but yes. I'm open to question.
It's okay. Maybe, I don't know, like a last remark, and then we can leave the floor to the cities. Let's see if there are any questions.
My last remark is that the problem we are all facing is that we are always focused on our pilot project. And once the pilot project is done, if we do not have prepared far more in advance how it will be upscaled, even if we don't know exactly the solution, if the solution is working or efficient. If we don't think about that during the project, we have a lot of probability to fail the upscaling. That's one of the things we cannot really see about our pilot project, is how they will really be upscale at the level of the city or across Europe. And that's something to be prepared. And if you look only at business model and not financing schemes, we might fail. That's what we try to do in Athens, but it's not easy at all.
I'm sorry that today there is no one from Rina, that is also our partner working on business models, because I cannot really say a lot about what we are doing in Neutralpath on business models, but the cities might be, I know a little bit more. So any questions to Philippe? I know that there was a lot, and thanks, Philippe, really, because you summarized like 10 years in a few slides. But
I should be better in summary, in summarizing. That's a problem.
There is too much to say. So any questions? Any even remarks? Any complaint about these business models? Yeah, Roland.
Okay, thank you, Philippe, for this interesting presentation. And to try wrap up 10 years of experience. My concern, if I hear this, is that if we are looking to profitable business cases and the things we can offer them, like the service model or energy management, we are looking for the profitable things. And I think the real challenge when we talk about decarbonization of a district is the heating and cooling system. And that's very difficult to make there a profitable business case. So also in Ghent, we are now more thinking about, for instance, a special purpose vehicle to take in the charging stations for electrical vehicles, discussions with private companies, and to take it into the city ownership. So we can make profit with this, and also to combine it with an energy management system with the PV on the buildings of the city, and also in a later stadium, maybe we can combine it also with PV solar panels on private houses. So that's a direction we are thinking of to make a profitable business case. But the risk is that we don't take on the real challenge of decarbonization by focusing on the profitable things.
Yeah, absolutely. The question is decarbonization. Yeah, you're right. And the question is how to find an organization that help to really expand what you are doing to the low or poor household. And that will require financing engineering, such as what I have shown briefly, but district heating or district and cooling heating, district heating and cooling, because now we have to talk about cooling. That's a very complicated thing, because on the one hand, you have private contractors, okay. You have to change a lot of things in the buildings to make them, let's say, compatible with a district or cooling heating powered by renewable. So you have to touch many aspects and many targets. And right now, what we see in our project is technological solutions in mostly district heating, by the way. We have some experiences about cooling, but not so much. And we don't know exactly how to finance the deployment, and sometimes we are more focused on the technological aspect than the wall aspect. And what I found interesting in the example I've shown, which are not from the SCC community, because, as I said, we are thinking about the business model or the technical solution, but we are not thinking on how to finance the whole system. Maybe because it's also elsewhere that it is done. I think that in Dresden you have a public company who is managing the district heating. So it's certainly here where the question of how to finance or to expand is addressed. That might be the case also in your city. That's certainly the case in the cities also of Ascend. And the question is how to link what we are finding in our project to a more global vision. And what I found interesting in the cooling as services or the community LMI solar project is that they have thought about what would be the financial schemes that can support the deployment. And when we said, unfortunately, it's an American example, the LMI solar community, but it is targeted to low and moderated income, not the one who can afford the thing. And I think we should try to work on similar structure. We know that the energy performance contract, that's also a scheme we can try to deploy, not for the district heating, maybe because the district heating it's too complicated, but that might be a solution. But we haven't, and that raised two questions. The one is how can we really work on developing business model at scale, which require financial engineering. And if we work on financial engineering, we have to connect with other people who are not in our project, inside the cities, of course, or outside if it's a public or private company.
I guess it's answered.
No,
yeah,
it's more questions than answers.
Yeah, more questions than answers, because that's we, especially in Ghent, in the case of the district Northern Mullislee, we are looking for a district and cooling network, because we are thinking that to organize it in a collective way, it's much better to include the low and middle income households. But then we see, if we see to the business cases, like heat pump as a service, or cooling as a service, that's more oriented. That's maybe an interesting business case for the higher incomes, or the people who can afford to lease these kinds of technology. Yeah. And at the same time, maybe this is an interesting starting point, but it's not helping forward the collective project, because if all the interesting people with capital are managing their own individual solution with cooling as a service system or a pump, heat pump as a service, they are out of the collective system. So that's we see if we look forward, we see that as a problem.
Yeah, it might be a problem. You're perfectly right, but two things. The first one is recently I a research paper. I can provide it to you. It's one of the most affected cities by climate change, and they are really have some very challenging heat waves, and that will worsen in the future, of course. And they show that that's only theoretical, of course, but they calculate that by massively deploying heat pumps, they will decrease very significantly carbon emissions. They will provide energy savings for heating and cooling. Heating in Toulouse, I think that's not the main problem, by the way, today. And even with the rebound effect, the rebound effect is that if you have a better system, you have a tendency to consume more, of course. That's a very striking example, because we are struggling to create PCED with a collective approach, very, let's say, cohesive, but at the same time, we are spending a lot of time to create a PCED, and we are not very sure that in the long run it will last. So maybe investing in heat pumps, as you said, as a services, might be a solution. And what we are proposing, I was referring to the Climate City Impact Investment Fund, is if you think that you can, if every city develop their own heat pump system or own heat pump approach, you will still have not a big scale. But if you added 10 to 15 cities, and you can have, I don't know, 20 millions of heat pumps as a target, you will have a different impact. You will speed and scale the industry of heat pumps today, and you probably can still have European industrial players that can benefit from that, because one of the aspects we didn't raise today is that the clean energy industry is now more developed in China than in Europe. And if we install, for instance, PV panels everywhere, if you do a life cycle analysis, I'm not sure that it's so good in terms of sustainability, because we are importing this panel from China. That doesn't mean that the PV panel should not be on the agenda, of course, but there's a need to have a local industry that is capable to supply, and that's not easy today because we are lagging behind the Chinese. And that's supposed maybe also to work on new business models, such as the second life of PV panels, for instance. That might also help to decrease or to improve the life cycle analysis.
Same for the batteries, no? For the rare earth elements that we also bring from Asia and so on.
Yeah, absolutely. Battery, hydrogen, PV panels, most of them are China, the leaders are China.
I was also reading about this in the social environmental impact that they have when they extract these elements, for example, in China and in Asia, because at the end it's true that in Europe we do have an agenda about the just transition, but if we buy from them and we ignore the environmental and social impact that they use also to extract them, we are a little bit hypocrites, no? Because at the end of the day, just because it's not happening on our territory doesn't mean that it's not people and it's not earth, etc., etc. So yes, there
but
are.
you can think about the circular economy about that, because Gothenburg example, is one example of, let's say, circular economy, because that's the old battery from buses. They are trying to change and to make them a storage component of electricity in housing.
Yeah.
The question will be probably, is it enough to expand massively this system? I'm not sure, because I don't know how many batteries from e-buses we have today, the one who can be recycled.
So many questions after these sessions. Do we have any really last comment or remarks? Otherwise, I know that we are running a little bit late. Sorry, everyone. So if any remarks, any questions? No? Okay. Anyway, we will share the presentation from Philippe and also the other resources that Philippe has mentioned from Scalable Cities. Hopefully, he will also join us in Ghent, so maybe we can also bring this conversation to dinner and to the workshop that we will organize for the Capacity Building Day as well. Thank you so much all for joining, and thank you so much, Philippe. It was super interesting as always. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. I hope that we will meet again, of course, in Barcelona too, sure. I guess. Yes. So have a nice day.
Thanks a lot. Have a nice day. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.
Have a nice day. Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.